In 1929, Richard Byrd headed to Antarctica with 42 men to establish a base, fly to the South Pole, and map the area around the Ross Sea and the Queen Maud mountain range. They used airplanes for aerial exploration and to get to the South Pole, as well as to map the areas in Antarctica. They brought all the equipment necessary for accurate mapping, such as sun compass, sextant, cameras. They had cameras pointing out the windows, cameras pointing straight down from the airplane, and they found mountain ranges all over Antarctica, extending as far as the eye can see. And the Queen Maud mountain range was only one of very many mountain ranges that they found. In his own words, a great unknown mountain range, an enormous mountain range, the Edison mountain range, the Fisher Mountains that extend to the horizon, the Queen Maud mountain range, of course we've all seen that one, as well as 40 peaks in the Rockefeller Mountains, Scott's Nunatak, an active volcano, and these are not all the mountains that Richard Byrd found in his 1929 expedition. Here's one of Richard Byrd's maps showing the area around Little America and the Ross Sea, and you can see the Rockefeller Mountains, the Matterhorn, which is a huge mountain, New Mountains, the Alexandra Mountains, Scott's Nunatak, another peak, the Edison Mountains, which extend for 250 miles, and we also are going to compare this to what we could find on Google Earth in the same area. First, let's take a look at Richard Byrd's account of his expedition in his book called Little America from 1930. Here's a picture of Richard Byrd, and of course the book published in 1930. And all of these markers here show different mountains that were found, and each one describes seeing different mountains and different mountain ranges. Some of them can be found on current maps, but most of them cannot be found. So here it talks about an active volcano, Mount Erebus, with a dead crater, and also Mount Terror. And here it describes Scott's Nunatak with a chain of rather small mountains trending to the southeast. Doubtful that any of them exceed 1,500 feet in height. Here's the first sighting of the Rockefeller Mountains, where 14 summits were found. And then here we get more information about the Rockefeller Mountains, including the exact latitude and longitude, and the fact that there are 40 peaks in the group. The good old winter party of 42 men who spent an entire year in Antarctica. Here he talks about the Queen Maud Range and the Mount Nansen, Don Pedro Christopherson. Here Byrd describes a colossal mass which is unlike anything Amundsen described, which was named Fisher Mountain, as well as the peaks and spurs of the Crown Prince Olaf Mountains continuing to South Victoria Land. Here the marbled walls of the Fisher Mountain with its company of stalwart foothills was on the right, crowding into the horizon on the southwest. Here describes the Edison mountain range, where the mountains continued in an uninterrupted chain to the southward, and that McKinley photographed 200 miles of the new mountain range, and our own vision, helped by the glasses, had seen even further. The geological party and Dr. Gould had climbed all the way up the Queen Maud mountain range, and upon getting on top of it, they reported finding a colossal mountain range toward the south, and that they could see this enormous mountain range to 88 degrees south, and that most likely from its appearance it continues further in the same direction over the Antarctic continent. The geological party also reports ahead and disappearing toward the east a great range of mountains unknown and unexplored. And again, looking back over the route we have come and the areas we have mapped, it is interesting to note that eastward from Mount Alice west, the mountains are much lower and continue so as far east as we could see. Now I can look at any current map of Antarctica, and the only visible mountain range is the Queen Maud mountain range, which is clearly not correct from Richard Byrd's account and the geological expedition's account of what they found at Antarctica. Here is Richard Byrd's map of the Bay of Whales and Little America, and this is the zoomed out map showing the Ross Sea all the way to the South Pole. In this video we're going to focus on this part of the map, and specifically the Rockefeller Mountains and the Edison Mountains, and compare what we see here to what we can find on Google Earth or any other map. We'll start by getting a scale of miles to pixels on our map, and we can see that 50 miles is 200 pixels, so that means that each mile is represented by 4 pixels. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Rockefeller Mountains. Alright, so measuring Rockefeller Mountains, we of course get 200 pixels, and that is 50 miles. So it's a 50-mile mountain range, and Richard Byrd said there's 40 mountain peaks in that range. We'll take the exact longitude and latitude of the beginning point and the ending point, plug those into Google Earth, and see what we got. The coordinates provided by Byrd are represented by the yellow pinpoints. I'll measure the distance between that, and we of course get the same 50 miles. So I know Byrd's map is correct. Byrd describes the mountain range forming a crescentic shape with the crescent opening to the west, as you can see in the red line. Once again, the red crescent shape has been added to Google Maps, and we can see where the Rockefeller Mountains should be. They are completely missing. Well, it looks like the Rockefeller Mountains are marked on the map here. Let's try to zoom in and see what is left of 40 mountain peaks. I don't know what this is. Maybe a mountain peak? Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looking at the area around these objects, it doesn't really look like the snow or the terrain that I would expect leading up to a mountain. We'll go ahead and measure one of these mountains to see how big they are. Looks like about a mile. There certainly is not 40 mountain peaks here. And really, according to Richard Byrd, there's no mountains anywhere in the crescent shape where they should be. In Richard Byrd's own words, they lay in the shape of a crescent, and the northernmost peak we judge to be approximately 50 miles from Scott's Nunatak. So I figure it's got to be somewhere around this area, and looking at Google Maps, I can't find it anywhere. Wikipedia says it's Scott's Nunataks, which is interesting because Byrd and Amundsen always call it Scott's Nunatak, singular. But we can see here that it says it's 18 kilometers east of the Richter Glacier. I'm going to try to search for Scott's Nunatak, and we couldn't understand this location. Okay, no problem. Let's try the Richter Glacier. There it is. We'll go ahead and measure 18 kilometers to the east. And I think this might be it right here. We'll look at photos from Amundsen. Now the photos on Google Maps are so blurry you can't really tell what you're looking at, but I think it's safe to put a marker here and name this one Scott's Nunatak. However, looking at Richard Byrd's map, this really seemed to be in the wrong location, so I'm going to draw a line 50 miles away from the northernmost Rockefeller Peak, and that's the location Scott's Nunatak should be at, but I don't find any mountains around there at all. But what's over here? Man, I love all the cool, crazy images you get to see at Antarctica. And I couldn't figure this shadow out. It looked like a shadow from a man-made building. I'm not sure what that is. So next, let's look at the 250-mile long mountain range called the Edison Mountains. Measuring the mountain range here, it is 1,000 pixels, so each mile representing 4 pixels. That is 250 miles. And we of course can verify that on our scale below, because a line of 1,000 pixels will be 250 miles on Byrd's map. So it says Ford ranges here, it doesn't say Edison Ford, and I measure that and it certainly isn't anywhere close to 250 miles. So I'm not sure where the Edison Mountains are at. Additionally, zooming in on these mountains, I don't know if they really look, if they're mountains or not. Look at the size of the cornice. If this is a mountain, that would be a really high cornice. I don't think I've seen that before. We can measure from the bottom to the top of a mountain, and we can measure over here. It's about a quarter mile. So if this is a mountain, it's certainly not a very big mountain. And you can go look at various of these rocks and see a huge snowdrift or cornice. Again, if this is a mountain peak, I'm not sure how high that cornice would be, but judging by Richard Byrd's description, I'm not sure any of these would qualify as the mountain peaks that he's seen. They just look like some scattered rocks poking through the snow, and they certainly aren't 250 miles long. So where are the 250 miles of mountains for the Edison mountain range? I'll go ahead and draw a 250-mile line here where the mountains should be at. And again, we have mountains that have completely disappeared from Antarctica. Numerous peaks from the Rockefeller Mountains, something like 35 mountains from the Rockefeller Range have gone missing, and essentially the entire Edison mountain range is missing. Maybe a few scattered rocks remain from that. And then you got this circle that's going around. And you can look at the Queen Maud mountain range, which is the only mountain range visible on any Antarctic map. And if you really try to look at this, where the glacier fall through, the quality of the picture just gets worse and worse and worse the closer you get to the pole. You can see there's some pretty good pictures up there, but as you scroll down here, the quality is just horrendous. It's obvious what they've done is taken a picture and they've stretched it, and the pixels are stretched here, and you can't see details on anything. And then everything gets stretched right down to the central point of the South Pole, 90 degrees south. And if you look here, you can see the lines all get stretched right into the middle. So there's no actual photograph that you could see of what's at the South Pole. Supposedly the South Pole Station is here, but it's nowhere to be found on the map. You got the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, which is located at the South Pole, and there it is directly at 90 degrees south, the location where Amundsen and Scott and Richard Byrd all went. We'll ask Google where the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is at, and of course it'll take us to 90 degrees south. Oh, wait a second. This is not 90 degrees south. And there's certainly no South Pole Station anywhere to be seen. And where are we at? 85 degrees south. Okay, so Google tells us that the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is not at 90 degrees south. It is at 85 degrees south. And there is no picture of it. All you get are some white pixels. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at 90 degrees south so we can find the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station ourselves. And wait a second, now we just get a white dot and a bunch of pixels stretched to the center. And we can see, zooming out and looking at all of Antarctica, that the majority of this continent or continents is classified, and you're not allowed to see anything that's here. They let you see one mountain range, the Queen Maud mountain range, which is the most obvious one, the first one that you encounter when you go to Antarctica, and none of the other mountain ranges that have been found here are shown on the map. I think The Truman Show describes all this very well when it shows Jim Carrey encountering Antarctica on his boat, getting out, and it subsequently showing this as classified information.
Personally, I think the unconquered south face is the only one worth scaling. It's a 20,000-foot sheer wall of ice, but that's never stopped me before.
Why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented.
It's the Truman Show!